Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Miss Sensational Gaming channel. In today's video, I'm in a very sour mood today, so I decided to watch Arglefumph's videos that involves culprit swaps. This one is Nancy Drew's Secrets Can Kill, and I actually managed to finish playing the original game. As far as the remaster one, I haven't gotten through it yet, but I have a feeling that I will eventually. But for the time being, we're focusing on the original version of Secrets Can Kill. And this, the culprit swap is like something that is like totally different. And before I start the video, please excuse my tone of not feeling excited. Basically because I was not in a great mood last night and I wasn't in the mood today. I don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened, but let's just say I was in a funk. I was in a funk of a mood. Let's just say it's something that has nothing to do with anything personal, but it's like something very small. It just puts me in a very not so great mood. So I'm not going to discuss any details, but let's just say that I need something to calm my nerves and my anger, you know? So why not watch this video and see what kind of culprit is Arglefumph decided to swap, or at least what if scenarios to be exact. So please leave a like and subscribe, and let's get started.
I'm trying a new video series called Culprit Swap, where I go through the Nancy Drew games and ask, what if the game had a different culprit? I wish Secrets Can Kill had a different culprit. I don't like the culprit in either version of the game very much. In the original, the culprit is some random guy named Mitch who doesn't get mentioned until the very end. That was a disappointment. It would have been so much more satisfying if the culprit had been one of the four suspects.
To be honest, I did not mind, basically because it doesn't make it too obvious of who the culprit is. Because in my opinion, it's like they don't want to make it too obvious, but also they want to actually point out who actually the real culprit is. And even if they want to do something that's obvious, either it still wouldn't make any sense or something that I don't know exactly what it is, unless they have a motive that they're not the ones who did something terrible. But to understand his side of the story, I can understand why he's disappointed. But for me, I feel like it left it like a mystery. You know, we don't know who the actual culprit is. Even though it could have been one of the four suspects that we talked to, the only problem is that they probably have motives. They probably have, not motives, but they have alibis is what I'm trying to say. Alibis is where, like, they explain that they were there, but they weren't in that situation where this whole event happened. But let's get back to this video.
If Mitch isn't the culprit, the blackmail tapes have to change. Instead of Daryl committing crimes for Mitch, they could show Daryl stealing from the cash register at Maxine's. The minor change of making Daryl a thief is all you need to do in order to eliminate Mitch from the story. Let's start with the Hulk.
Okay, so apparently what he wants it to happen, or could have happened, is that if Daryl is decided to work with Mitch, then it would have been like, what does he say? Let's get back to this video.
Stealing from the cash register. Instead of Daryl committing crimes for Mitch,
okay,
they could show Daryl stealing from the cash register at Maxine's.
So that's basically what he is saying. He if the culprit was going to be Daryl, he would have stolen money from the cash register at Maxine's diner rather than working with Mitch. Which I'm trying to figure out if he was the kind of guy that is supposed to be perfect, or he used to be perfect up until he struggles. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm not so sure about the idea, but it's probably just me feeling differently.
The minor change of making Daryl a thief is all you need to do in order to eliminate Mitch from the story. Let's start with the Hulk. I think he's the one who's most likely to be the culprit. He's scary. He could totally beat me up in real life.
Just because he's a sports jock player, even though I could understand it, but I don't find him that scary.
Also, the culprit confrontation takes place at the pharmacy, and Hulk is the only one who's actually been to the pharmacy before. Let's say the big finale is when Nancy sees Hulk breaking into the pharmacy again. There's a puzzle of chasing him through the building and catching up to him before he escapes with more steroids. Another possibility I thought of is that Nancy could explore the gym after Hulk leaves for practice. She breaks into Hulk's locker and finds a jersey with blood stains.
Now, this is the remaster version, because it's in 3D. And I think the original characters from the original game looks a lot decent than this remaster one. Probably because they wanted to remaster it due to the fact that people wanted to play the first game, because it's like the first game that's ever been out. Even though I wasn't aware at the time that this Nancy Drew game exists, but still.
When confronted, Hulk says it was from the game where he got injured, but Nancy's not so sure. Nancy says she wants to give the jersey to the police so they can test it. Hulk refuses, and the argument escalates to the point where Hulk flies into a roid rage. It admits that he killed Jake. He tries to kill Nancy too. The final puzzle could be fighting him off. Only Nancy using real weapons is too violent for the series, so she'd probably throw different types of balls at Hulk. First a basketball, then a volleyball, then a football. Unlike Hulk, Hal Tanaka doesn't...
Okay, so before we get to Hal Tanaka, for Hulk, I could see him most likely being the culprit in the first game, even though this is a what-if scenario. I think Hulk being the culprit that did this kind of crime is probably, It's been a while since I played the first game, but that's only because I haven't played that game ever since I found out it existed. Because at this point, I do see Hulk being the culprit, even though Mitch was quite not too obvious, but he's a certain type of character that is like, But let's just watch this full video so that I can explain in detail later.
Doesn't seem like the type to commit a crime of passion. No, Hal would probably think ahead and plan the crime in advance. The security report says Hal was escorted in and out of the building on the night of the murder. Hal did that on purpose to give himself an alibi. I couldn't have killed Jake. I left the building long before then. I have a security guard who can back me up. The security guard saw Jake and Hulk arguing shortly before the murder. That must have been Hal's attempt to frame Hulk. Hal probably lured them both there using notes like, meet me outside the gym at 8. He probably added something inflammatory to the notes just to make sure Jake and Hulk would fight and draw attention to themselves. The culprit uses a note that says, I have the solution to your mystery, in order to lure Nancy into a death trap. The timing of this death trap is interesting. It always happens after Nancy finds the plagiarized essay. That makes sense if Hal is the culprit. He knows Nancy's onto him. That's why he sets up a death trap for her. When Nancy finds Hal's essay in the teacher's lounge, there's a note that says to submit it to the PDM Scholarship Foundation. I bet that's the incident which caused Hal to resort to murder. He became far more desperate to get the library book back from Jake once he learned his essay was going to be made public. This would probably play into the culprit capture. Hal knows his future of getting a scholarship is still at risk, as long as somebody else has the book. And, maybe he tried breaking into Jake's locker to get the book already. Maybe that's why the police sealed it off.
Okay, the remastered version of Hal almost identical of the original, but not as perfect. Like I said, this was in 3D, while this one is like 2D drawing animated. But it was a unique idea at the time, and then they started to make the character models 3D.
Because somebody else has the book. And, maybe he tried breaking into Jake's locker to get the book already. Maybe that's why the police sealed it off. Hal can't let it drop, so he makes another attempt at stealing the book. Let's say this happens at the library. Nancy's there to find the hidden camera that Jake set up. Or maybe it's the remastered version where she checks underneath Jake's chair. While she's distracted, Hal tries to push Nancy, grab her bag, and run away. But it doesn't work. She sees his reflection in the camera lens and knows to turn around in time. Hal threatens to push Nancy off the railing if she doesn't give him the book. Maybe this could be a violent ending, like the Haunted Carousel, where she throws the book at the culprit's head. Or she could throw it down to the first floor. We hear a voice say, "Nancy, that's no way to treat a library book." Nancy responds with, "Aunt Eloise, you're just in time to help me capture the murderer."
I want to know how Aunt Eloise gets an appearance in this game. Because, remember, in the first game, we have not seen Aunt Eloise. So, I wonder if the idea is to show Aunt Eloise's model character, like a first look at her. Or if it's just like she's hiding and just throws the book at Hal. Who knows? I'm going off topic.
His lesson on proper behavior is extremely overdue. If Connie was the culprit, I'm not sure what would make her decide to commit murder. Connie is clearly mad that she was forced to take Jake as her date to the Sadie Hawkins dance, but that appears to have happened a few weeks ago. Maybe the fight flared up again when he said she had to take him to prom, too.
For those of you who don't know the mystery behind Secrets Can Kill, it's basically, in this game, it focuses around Jake, who was murdered by one of the 4 suspects. But I don't want to give you spoilers, but if you haven't watched or played this game, I suggest you play it. But in the original version, it was Mitch, who was like some sort of drug dealer or something. And in the remaster, it's a totally different person. And keep in mind, I have not played the remastered version. I may have played some of it, but I haven't gotten through with it. Which is plain and simple. But my apologies for pausing the video, I just had to get it out of my chest.
Or maybe she got accepted into college, and it became that much more important to make sure Jake couldn't cause her money to disappear. Or maybe the blackmail stuff is totally irrelevant. Maybe she realized Jake is the one setting off the soda machine alarm all the time, and she got so mad she killed him.
Oh!
Whatever the motive is, things would basically be the same if Connie was the culprit. Things would also be similar whether or not she knew Jake was blackmailing other people. Just to make things interesting, let's say Connie is the only one who denies the blackmail tape is real. She says Nancy's wrong. She's not the winner of the judo tournament. Maybe Connie could say, "You misunderstood what you saw. That was a film project that Jake forced me to do." I noticed the blackmail tape is inside the vent system in the original, but the remake puts it next to the vent. So the original Jake made an attempt to hide the blackmail tape, and it's actually kind of surprising that none of his blackmail victims tried to find the incriminating tape after he died. Culprit Connie demands to see the tape for herself, so Nancy and Connie go to Aunt Eloise's house for the end of the game. Although it would be cool if the culprit confrontation took place at the judo school.
And this is Connie with the remaster one. Almost similar to the original, but I think her 3D model in this remaster one, looks a little bit better.
Connie grabs the tape and breaks it. She says Nancy has no proof of anything anymore. And then, let's say we have the end of game puzzle from the remastered version. Why not? Nancy tells Connie there's a backup tape in Aunt Eloise's safe, Only it's a trick, so Connie will be caught by the security system. I really don't know how else Nancy could have a culprit fight with Connie. Just like Hulk, Connie would easily beat Nancy in a fair fight. Nancy has to use some sort of trickery here. Let's finish with Daryl Gray, the last character.
Oh, he hasn't, for some reason, he was mentioning Daryl Gray in the very beginning, but I guess that he wants to get that out of the way. Even though he already mentioned of what happens if he was the culprit, but I don't know.
I think he's the character who has changed the most from the original to the remake. He's not a police contact in the remake. The remake changes his crime from drugs to military espionage, and it has a second blackmail tape, which is specifically just for Daryl. All those changes make it seem like he was going to be the remake's culprit. That would have been a better choice than Detective Beach. If Daryl's the culprit, the game would play out the exact same way until Nancy sees the tape. The tape for Daryl. The tape made specifically to blackmail Daryl. Daryl's tape. That tape. Nancy sees the tape, and she goes to Maxine's to confront Daryl. Daryl is flirty and used to charming his way out of trouble. He's taken aback when his sweet talk doesn't work on Nancy. Daryl confesses to his crime, but he denies being Jake's killer. He places the blame on the person who left the note for Nancy, who's here right now. He's in the bathroom. Yes, Maxine's has a bathroom. What restaurant doesn't have a bathroom? This ends up being a trick. Daryl tries to kill Nancy by throwing hamburgers at her.
What? How does that make any sense? I guess in my mind he's trying to stuff the hamburgers on Nancy's mouth. Who knows? But to get back on topic, I didn't like this Daryl model in the remaster one because he doesn't look as handsome as the original. Even though the original was cartoon 2D related, or 2D design of the model of Daryl, this one is just, even though I do believe that he has a bit of the charm going forward, but despite everything, he does not look handsome in the remaster version.
Only Joe Hardy shows up, and there's a challenge to eat all the hamburgers in midair before they touch the ground. Wait, that's silly. Daryl can do the death trap of pushing Nancy into a giant meat freezer. I'm pretty sure I've seen that death trap in multiple Nancy Drew books. Normally, she escapes by breaking open the door or reaching a high-up window. You solve the puzzle in time, and Daryl is arrested. Nancy probably has a cool one-liner like, "Order up," or, "Sorry, Daryl, looks like our date just got cancelled." That's it for my culprit swap video. I'm sorry if this was way too long. Leave a comment if you have other ideas for who the culprit could be, or if you think there's something different I should be doing with this series.
No, I think this series was pretty good. This is like a good idea series. However, here's why I feel. I feel like Hal could be the mastermind type of culprit, while Connie is like very, very she's very good at like karate or judo or whatever kind of fighting style she does. I think even though they could be potential culprits due to whether it's intelligence or strength or even agility, but I am totally unsure. I'm totally unsure about this. Sure, Daryl would be a nice culprit, but I just have mixed feelings about this. But if I wanted to swap the culprit from Mitch and for the remastered Detective Beach to someone else, I think it should be Hulk. And it's probably because he has a lot of strength to try to end off Nancy. But I think what I could have done is that in order to knock him down unconsciously, instead of balls, there has to be some sort of pipe to like knock him down unconsciously, and then Nancy heads on out, and then the police arrives, and that's where Nancy says, "There's your culprit. He's the one who ended Jake." And that'll be it. But that's just me. I'm going to leave a like on this video, but not right now. This is actually a pretty good video, but if you want me to do some more reactions to culprit culprit swap videos made by Arglefumph, all you have to do is leave a like on this video of me reacting to the first one, and subscribe to the Miss Sensational Gaming channel, and make sure you turn on these notifications so that you'll be notified a single video that I upload. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, be kind to others, have a happy holidays, and most importantly, have a blessed day.